Welcome to Book and Bujo. I'm Debbie, and this is where I talk about all things books, bullet journals, and stationery. Today, let's go through how I'm doing with the 52 Book Club Readathon and if I need to step up my game or if I'm almost done. The 52 Book Club Readathon is a year-long readathon where you have 52 different prompts that you need to fulfill by the end of the year. There are also mini challenges for each quarter. I'm doing the 52 prompts, but I'm not doing any of the extra little challenges that come with it. But there are mini challenges that come with each month and each quarter and quarterly read-along books as well, and I have not done any of those. Since this is my first time doing this readathon, I decided just to stick with the 52 prompts and not do any of the extra challenges. And I will leave a link to the website and the YouTube channel down below in case you would like to give it a try, maybe jump on in partway through the year, or if you want to just wait until next year because it'll happen again next year. All right, so let's go through these prompt by prompt and see how I'm doing and how many books I still have left to read before the end of the year. On the website, you can download a copy of all of the prompts, so you get this nice little list that you can check off. If you go to the website, you can also find a list of all of the prompts and what they mean, as well as some ideas of books that fit the prompt, which is very helpful. I've had to refer to that list a few times. So let's go ahead and start with prompt number 1, a locked room mystery. So the most common type of a locked room mystery would be a murder mystery, but a lesser common one would be a heist, a theft, or some other kind of impossible mystery. And for this prompt, I read Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. The second prompt is bibliosmia? Kind of hard to say, but it basically means a smelly book. It can be defined as the smell or aroma of a good book, or the act of smelling books. So it could be a book that has that good book smell, or maybe it was read you didn't like and so this book stinks. Or maybe there's a bookish character that just loves the smell of books or talks about how books smell all the time. Smell is also associated with memory, so you could pick a nostalgic read for this one. So there's definitely lots of options on this one. But I did go to the suggestions, so they have a Goodreads list of options of books that could fit this prompt, and so I went there and I found one that I read, and that was Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. And that book definitely has a lot of smells involved with it, between the coffee and the pastries. Okay, prompt number 3, more than 40 chapters. This one was actually really easy because I read a lot of big chunky fantasy books and most of them have over 50 chapters. So this one wasn't too hard. And I read The Path of Daggers by Robert Jordan. And that is the 8th book in the Wheel of Time series. Prompt number 4, lowercase letters on the spine. And for that I read Mother of Learning by Damagaj Kermiak. And if you notice, the of is lowercase, as is the I, and actually the E and the A and the I are all lowercase, so Mother of Learning. It's also an amazing book. If you've not read this, check it out. It's so good. Prompt number 5, magical realism. I always struggle with this prompt and I'm not sure why, but I always do. I'm like, oh, what is a magical realism book? I read quite a few of them, so I don't know why I can't get it in my brain what a magical realism book is. And the website says, magical realism is a genre of literature that depicts the real world as having an undercurrent of magic or fantasy. Within a work of magical realism, the world is still grounded in the real world, but fantastical elements are considered normal in this world. Like fairy tales, magical realism novels and short stories blur the line between fantasy and reality. And for this I read Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. And this is the first book in the Wayward Children series. And again, you can go to the Goodreads list that is linked on the website and have a whole list of books that you can choose from. And that one was on there. Prompt number 6, Women in STEM. Now for this one, you could pretty much read any Ali Hazelwood book and call it good because all of her female protagonists are in STEM. But for this one, I chose Daughter of the Deep by Rick Riordan. And this one is a junior high and a high school, and all students are in STEM. And it was super fun. I loved that read. Prompt number 7, at least 4 different POVs. Again, lots of high epic fantasy usually have multiple POVs. But for this one, I did choose Winter's Heart by Robert Jordan, and that was book number 9 in the Wheel of Time series. And this readathon, you can double up on authors. You can have multiple books by the same author, unlike our Fantasy Bingo, where you can only use the author once. But I could also use any of the Kingfall History series. You could probably use the First Law World, lots of POVs in there. So lots of options for this one. Prompt number 8 features the ocean. And for this one, Daughter of the Deep would have worked really well, but I had already used that one. So I went with A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. Prompt number 9, a character-driven novel. Again, I have read quite a few of those this year, as I am a character-driven reader, so I do tend to read books that have a lot of characterization in it. This one I did choose The Rachel Incident by Carolyn O'Donoghue, and this was the group book for the Irish Readathon with Birds of Clover and Leanne Rose. Prompt number 10, a book told in non-chronological order, and for this one I read The Aeneid by Virgil. This one definitely jumped back and forth and all around the timeline. But you could also read books like People We Meet on Vacation or The Time Traveler's Wife. Those work as well. 11, title starting with a K. And for this I read Kingfall by David Estes, the first book in the Kingfall histories. And I will leave my review of that linked up in the cards above in case you are interested. Prompt number 12, starting with the letter L. And for this I read Last Call by John Robinson. Prompt number 13, an academic thriller. In My Dreams I Hold a Knife would be a good one, but I read that one last year. The Maidens, The Plot, Secret History. There's a whole lot of good dark academia out there. But I went with Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. Now this isn't your typical academic book, as it's not a classroom setting, but it was on the list of options to choose for this prompt, and there is some schooling and learning in there throughout the book. Prompt number 14, a grieving character. Again, I went to the list of suggestions on Goodreads for this one, and I went with 1984 by George Orwell. There are definitely some grieving characters in that book, and the main character has his grieving moments as well. But you could also go with The Hate You Give or Can You Just Sit With Me? There's quite a few other options in there. 15, part of a duology. And for this I read The Iliad by Homer. And as a duology is The Iliad and The Odyssey is the other book, which I have read a couple of years ago. So The Iliad by Homer. But you could also go with like The Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I mean, there's a lot of good duologies out there, but that one's one of my favorites. You could also do The Savage Song and Our Dark Duet, Gone with the Wind, and Scarlet. I have not read Scarlet yet. I do have Gone with the Wind, and I've read that one. I actually have my great-grandma's copy. I have my great-grandma's copy as well as one of her homemade crocheted bookmarks. So this one holds a lot of amazing memories for me. And it actually has pictures from the movie in it, which is kind of fun. Yeah, but I have not read Scarlet. Which I think I owned at some point, but I haven't seen it on my shelves. I don't think I still have that one. If I did, my mom might have had that one because I'm not seeing it. Next prompt. Prompt number 16. This one tripped me up a little bit because it feels like it's really difficult, but then not necessarily. So I think once you see some of the options of the books, it's like, oh, kind of the light bulb goes off. But prompt number 16, an omniscient narrator. Basically, the all-knowing narrator, the narrator who knows at all times what is happening in the book. And for this one, I chose The Name of All Things by Jen Lyons. And in this particular case, the characters are telling another character the memories of what happened recently. So all of the characters but the one already knows what happened. So it's just the one character that doesn't know what's going on. Another couple options are Lord of the Flies, Middlemarch, which I've also read recently, and it's very good. Definitely worth it. And look at those yellow sprayed edges. It's a very yellow book. Where the Crawdads Sing, Dune also would work for this. Prompt number 17, a book nominated for the Booker Prize. This one I have not read one yet, but I do have a couple options. So I believe the Booker nominees just came out recently, like this last week, I believe. And so there's a lot of really good options, but I am planning on reading Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and that is by Susanna Clark, and it is the book for the Game of Tomes Book Club for September and October. So I am excited about getting into that one. I hear it's definitely long, so it's like 800 to 1,000 pages, I believe. I could be wrong, but I think it's right around there. And I hear also that it's very slow paced, so a lot of diary entry style writing, kind of like Dracula is. So I'm going in knowing it's going to be really slow and maybe mundane in quite a few sections. So hopefully I will be able to get through it very positively. But it's one I really want to read. So 1 out of 17 so far I have not read yet. Doing pretty good. Prompt number 18, an apostrophe in the title. Ooh, I don't know if you can hear the thunder. Thunder's starting to rumble outside. I'm very excited. I love our thunderstorms in the summer. So apostrophe in the title. I read Shade's First Rule, so it's Shade apostrophe S, Shade's First Rule by AFK, and this is the first book in the Divine Apostasy series. And I highly recommend it. It's so much fun. It's a lit RPG where the character can level up as he goes, and it just is hilarious. Had me just chuckling throughout the book. Prompt 19, a buddy read. And this one, of course, could be any kind of buddy read that you do with anyone. And I chose Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa. And this is the first book in this series. And that was the group book for Spring Into Reading-a-thon, which was part of the Season-a-thon Academy put together by Completely Melanie. But the official 52 Book Club Readathon also has buddy read books as part of the mini challenges, so you could read one of those. Prompt number 20, a revenge story. And for that I read The Princess Bride by William Goldman. And of course we have Inigo Montoya, who is out to seek revenge against the six-fingered man who killed his father. But you could also read The Count of Monte Cristo. I can't count it because I read it last year, so that didn't work for me. But you could also do Gone Girl or Hamlet. There's a lot of revenge stories out there. Six of Crows would actually work as well because Kaz Brekker is out to get Pekka Rollins. So, Six Crows. One of my favorite books. Gotta plug it wherever I can. As well as Cricket Kingdom. 21. Written by a ghostwriter. So a lot of memoirs are written by ghostwriters, like Becoming by Michelle Obama, Spare, Britney Spears' memoir. Those are all written by ghostwriters. And I have not yet read one of the books yet, but I do have Becoming by Michelle Obama on my list of ones I would like to read. But also there are some other books from when authors have passed away before the book was finished. So other authors have come in and finished the book. And Wheel of Time, the 12th book in this series, was co-written, ghostwritten by Brandon Sanderson. So that's another option, but I'm going to try and go with Becoming. 2 out of 21 I have not read. Not too bad. Part number 22, a plot similar to another book. And then prompt number 23 is the other book with a similar plot. So if there's two books that have similar plots, you need to read both of them. And I have not read either yet. I do have plans for what I'm going to read. And there is a list on Goodreads that shows the book and the book it's similar to. So you can choose from there. But I plan to read The Fall of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe and What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher for both of those prompts. And I'm really hoping to get to those in September. So at least I should have 3 more of these done by the end of September. Let's hope. 4 prompts I still need to do out of 23. All right, prompt number 24. A cover without people on it. And for this I read In a Book Club Far Away by Tiff Marcello. And this was really good. I really enjoyed that book. Very fun. And of course there's a lot of options for this one. Prompt 25, an author everyone has read but you. And for that I read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. It did take me a long time. The second book was already out before I even thought of picking up the first one. But that was okay because then I got to read both of them back to back. Prompt number 26, hybrid genre. And for this one I read The Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden, and this one is a fantasy and a historical fiction book. Other options would be Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which is actually on my want to read list. Mexican Gothic. We have A Wrinkle in Time. There's a lot of options for this one. Prompt number 27, a book by a neurodivergent author. And for this I read And a Kindness of Ghosts by Rivers Solomon. Prompt number 28, A Yellow Spine. So a book with a yellow spine. So I could pick Middlemarch because mine is most definitely very yellow. But I did not choose that one. I chose Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I'm actually surprised at how many books have yellow spines. So I mean, Gone with the Wind, Phantom of the Opera, I have Pippi Longstocking, Middlemarch. Even Madame Bovary is somewhat yellow. It's more a little more cream, but yeah, I've got one up here. We've got another one over there. Yeah, I've got quite a few. Oh yeah, here's Scarlet. I do still have Scarlet. I have it up here because I haven't read it yet. And this one has a yellow spine as well. Interesting. I do have A Wrinkle in Time, A Wind in the Door. Wow, yeah. There are a lot of books with yellow spines. I'm surprised. Okay, moving on. Prompt number 29. Published in the Year of the Dragon. So it could be any Year of the Dragon. Doesn't necessarily need to be this year, even though we are the Year of the Dragon. So 12 years previously, 24 years previously, 48 years previously. You get the drift. And for this I read The Truth by Terry Pratchett. Prompt number 30, picked without reading the blurb. So you don't really know anything about the book. And for this I read Shiftless by Amy Easterling. This is one I got free from Free Booksy and didn't know anything about it except that there was a wolf on the cover, so I kind of assumed it was going to be some kind of shifter romance. And it was. Prompt number 31 includes personal phobia, and I have not read this one yet, but I was doing a little more research on the website and looking to see what my options were, and it does say it does not have to be your personal phobia. It just has to be the character in the book's personal phobia, which made it a whole lot easier, and there are so many options for this book. There's a ton of books where people are afraid of the dark, they're afraid of spiders, they're afraid of heights, they're afraid of lots of different things. So there's definitely some good options. Drowning, The Woman in the Window, Peter Pan, Harry Potter, so Ron, Arachnophobia. But I am probably going to choose Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, which was one of the options in the list. But I have not yet read that. 5 prompts I have not finished yet. Prompt number 32. Time frame spans a week or less. And there are a few books I've already read that have that, but I've either used them for a different prompt or I just can't seem to remember which ones they are. I think they span a week or less, but I'm not sure, so I don't want to use them. And there are a couple novellas that I just read that do that as well, but I'd kind of rather go with a full-length book. But if all else fails, I will use one of the little novellas. But a couple options is Mrs. Dalloway, which I have read, but last year. That one pretty much takes place in one day, and if you've not read that book yet, it's totally worth it. Also, a somewhat yellow spine. But yeah, this one is the main character, her stream of consciousness for one day. She's getting ready to host a party, and she's going out to get supplies, and all the random thoughts that come into her head during that day as she's planning this party. That's what basically what this book is. It was great. I loved it. All of the little shiny squirrel moments and the gossip that goes through her head and the practical things, like I gotta make sure I have, cups and forks and knives and, whatever. It was just really entertaining book. And that's by Virginia Woolf. They both die at the end. The Sun is also a star. 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. So those all take place in a week or less. But I am gonna go with The Christmas Wish by Lindsay Clark. That is one that was on the list, and I can get the audiobook from my library, and I can use that one during my 12 Books of Christmas readathon that I do every year. Cutting a little close. If that's the only one I still have to read at the end of the year, then that'll be just fine. Prompt number 33, an abrupt ending. So pretty much when you're going through the book and all of a sudden it just kind of ends and you're like, oh, okay, we're done. It's a little subjective depending on the reader. So a book that I think has an abrupt ending, someone else may not think that it does, and vice versa. But they do have some options, like The Birds, which, yes, does have a somewhat abrupt ending, but I read that a few years ago, so I can't count that. In the Woods, Finnegan's Wake is another one that I've heard has that. And they have a whole list of others that you can choose from. But I actually went with The Lost World by Michael Crichton. I feel like there's so much buildup and so much stuff that happens, and then it just is done. It ends. And you're like, oh, kind of wanted a little bit more. Can we draw that out just a little bit more? But it just ended. So, yeah, at the end I was just like, okay. I guess that was it. So for me, that was my abrupt ending book. Prompt number 34, set in a landlocked country. And there's probably a lot of books I could choose for this that I've already read, but without having a map in them, especially if I'm just listening to the audiobook, then I'm not 100% sure, and I don't want to flub it and just be like, well, I'm pretty sure it is. So I decided to check with their list and just be sure on these ones. And I have not read the book yet, but I will, and that is The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. Heard a lot of good things about this one, and I am very excited to get to it. 35, title matches song lyrics. And it's kind of funny because I was doing a readathon, and that was a similar prompt. I believe it was the Seasonathon Spring into Reading readathon back in March. And I'm pretty sure it was on there, and so I went with Dare to Believe, which is a Christian song lyric. Ooh, it's starting to rain. Beautiful. And that is by Becky Dvorak. Prompt number 36. The book has a futuristic technology. And again, you can go with the Red Rising series here. We have 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Journey into the Center of the Earth would probably work as well, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But I ended up going with Artemis Fowl by Ian Colfer, which I also read in March for the Irish Readathon. Prompt number 37, palindrome on the cover. And a palindrome is a word or a sentence or a phrase that can be read the same forwards and backwards, like race car or nurses run or Bob or wow or mom, hop on pop, radar girls. But you could also choose books like I'm Glad My Mom Died because it has mom in there. Act Your Age, Eve Brown, because Eve is the same backwards and forwards. Anything with Anna, A-N-A, A-N-N-A, or Hannah, those all work as well, as long as the Hannah has H on the end. It could be the title of the book or the author's name. Either way works. And this one I also have not read yet, but is on my list, and that is Assistant to the Villain, and that is by Hannah Nicole Maher. Prompt number 38, published by Hachette, which is very specific. I don't know why they chose that specific publisher, but published by Hachette, and I went with The Bone Shard War by Andrea Stewart, and that was the final book in the Drowning Empire series. On the website, it does say Hachette is considered one of the big 5 publishing companies and brings in over 200 imprints across the globe. Prompt number 39, a nonfiction recommended by a friend. And for this, I read Say Goodbye to Illness by Devi Nambudrapad. Prompt number 40, set during a holiday you do not celebrate. And for that, I read The Remaking of Corbin Whale by Roan Parrish, and they do celebrate Hanukkah in the book. Prompt number 41, a sticker on the cover. So it could be a sticker that's on a book that you personally got. Maybe you got a book from a thrift shop and they put a little sticker on the outside. It could be a sticker that's printed on there. So like some of the ones that are now like a movie that's been adapted on Netflix, they'll have this big Netflix sticker on there. So any book that you can find that someone somewhere has a sticker on it, it counts. This is probably the only prompt that does not have a Goodreads list available for it. But I actually did find one, and that is because I got this from a local library that was closing, and they have a big old library sticker up here at the top, and that is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte and adapted by Jim Pipe. And if you want to see a little bit more about this one, check out my May and June wrap-up, and I will leave that linked up in the cards above. I also could have used a picture of Dorian Gray, which has the same sticker on it, because I got it in the same place. Actually, almost any book off of this shelf and this shelf here, these were both from that library closure and basically all classics, and I probably could have used pretty much any of them, but most of them have stickers on the spine, not necessarily on the front. Prompt number 42, author debut in the second half of 2024. And I have not read anything from this one yet, although we are now in the second half of 2024, so it should be a little easier to find books for this. But it also has to be a debut by the author. So I will most likely read Night Owls by A.R. Vishny, because that one looked kind of interesting. It is a paranormal YA romance, and I do tend to like paranormal books, although YA romance are kind of hit and miss. But it's steeped in folklore. So 2 estuaries, owl-shifting female vampires from the Jewish tradition. Just that phrase alone had me like, I need to find out more. Right? How does this work? I want to know. They face New York's monstrous underworld to save the girl one of them loves with help from the boy one of them fears before they are all of them lost forever. So owl-shifting female vampires of the Jewish tradition. Just, yes, I want more. I want to find out more. How does this work? I am intrigued. So that is most likely the book I will choose for that prompt. Okay, so that's 8 out of 42 so far I have not read yet. So I have to read at least 8 more books before the end of the year for this readathon. Prompt number 43, a book about finding identity. And for this one, I chose IQ 84 by Haruki Murakami. And I feel like both of the main characters are trying to figure out who they are in 1Q84, and it was definitely an interesting read. I'm glad I read it. Prompt number 44 includes a wedding, and this one may surprise you, but I chose The Trouble with Peace, which is the second book in the Age of Madness series by Joe Abercrombie, but there is a wedding in it, and it's not a romance. Prompt number 45, chapter headings have dates. And I'm pretty sure I've read a few books with like this, but I mean 1Q84 has dates in them, but I think it's a chapter number and then there's the date, so I didn't want to count it there, and I already used it for a different prompt anyway. But I wasn't sure, and I didn't have the physical book to check, so I didn't go with any of the ones I thought had that. And instead, I went to the list to see what other options there are, and so I do plan to read The Book Eaters by Sunyi Dean. And so that makes 9 books now I need to read before the end of the year. Prompt number 46, book features Indigenous culture. And for this one, I am currently reading Talks Like Thunder by Randall Nurhus. And I am at 51% of the way through, so I will have that one done before the end of the month. Prompt number 47 has a self-insert by an author. And I was like, what does that mean? So I went to the 52 Book Club website, and they describe it as a self-insert is when the author writes themselves in as a character within the novel. And I chose Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, so you could choose Fourth Wing or Iron Flame either way. And the author and the main character has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Prompt number 48. The book has the word secret in the title. So a good one for this would be The Secret History, but I've already read that. And that was a couple years ago, so can't use that one. Instead, I went with The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. And that was just a sweet, cozy read. Prompt number 49. The story is set in a city that starts with the letter M. And for that, I read Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I had no idea about this one. I had to look up the list to see, and Vicious was on there, so I went with it. You could also read Beneath a Scarlet Sky, which takes place in Milan, or The Girl Who Was Saturday Night, which takes place in Montreal. The Story of Fernandad from Madrid. Lots of options on this one. And it can be a fictional city that starts with the letter M. It doesn't have to be a real city. Prompt number 50. A musical instrument on the cover. And again, I'm pretty sure I've probably read a book this year already that has a musical instrument on the cover. But just with a quick little glance at some of them, I didn't really notice one. So we're going to read a suggested book, one that I got off the list and is on my TBR anyway for wanting to read this year, and that is This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. But that makes 10. I have not read yet. Out of 50. 10 out of 50. Not too bad. Doing okay. Prompt 51. Related to the word wild, and instead of relating to the word wild, I just chose the word wild, and I will be reading Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I'm very excited to get to this book, and I have the ebook for it now, and if you want to see my Kindle haul where I got this one, I will leave that linked up in the cards above as well. Alright, last prompt. Prompt number 52. A book published in 2024, and I've actually read quite a few books published in 2024. I'm surprised. I usually am very much a backlist reader. I read a lot of older books and not a lot of new upcoming books. It's kind of rare for me to read so many up-to-date books, but I did read an arc that came out this year, and that was Heart of the Valkyrie by Melanie Karsak, and that is an amazing book. I love it. Norse mythology based. So good. There are so many good books that came out this year, and I just finished A Tempest of Tea, which was really good, and that was also published this year, so lots of options. So my final total is 13 books that I still need to read by the end of the year. So we have August, September, October, November, December. So we have 5 months left to read 13 books. Now I typically read between 10 and 15 books in a month, so I'm not too concerned about it, but I need to make sure I prioritize these, so I'm not trying to read all of them in December when I'm trying to do Old Favor Past Readathon from G at Book Roast with Magical Readathon, and I'm not trying to do my 12 books of Christmas reading, and yeah, please help me to stay accountable. So have you taken part of the 52 Book Club Readathon, and if you are participating this year, how's it going for you? Are you keeping up with it, or are you way behind? And if you have any suggestions for some of the prompts that I haven't read yet, I would love to know those. These aren't set in stone, they're all penciled in, so if I want to swap them out, I can. So if you have a suggestion that you think I would like better than the ones I have in here, let me know down in the comments below. And thank you so much for joining me as I went through my 52 Book Club Readathon books that I still need to get to. And stay tuned for more bookish delights to come. And until next time, keep reading. Bye!